Mithra admonished and Shiva slew, as Maya Mutras, the alluvial Papaganaphides, and his nuptial eagles sharped their beaks of prey, and every mortal man of us, poem by poem, falls back into this terrene. As it was, let it be, says he. And it is as though, where Agni Ariflammed and Mithra admonished and Shiva slew, as Maya Mutras, the alluvial waters of our Noachic memory withdrew, windingly go Harkson, to some hasty, wasty timberman torch priest, flame and fan, the ward of the wind that lightened the fire that lay in the wood that Jove woke at his rude word. Posidonius, O fluctuary, lay that bloody stone as it is. What are you doing, you dirty minx, and his big tree block way up your path, slip around you by the rear of the ministers. And you, take that barrel back where you got it, Mac Shames, and go the way your old one went, Hatchetsbury Road. And gish, how they gushed away, the penny fares, a whole school for scamper, with their sashes flying sish behind them, all the little pearly pets. Ici la chapelle. Any Lucans, please? Yes, the viability of vicinals, if invisible, is invincible. And we are not trespassing on his corns either. Look at all the clutch. Fluminium. If this was Hannibal's walk, it was Hercules' work. And 100,000 of the unemancipated slaved the way. The mausoleum lies behind us. O agigasta multi-populi pater. And there are milestones in their cadenilias faltering along the train's track by Brahm and Anton Hermes. Per omnibus secula secularum. Amen. But the past has made us this present of a raider road. So, more bore, O'Connell. Though Rainey hidden your rhino hide, and if he's not a Romeo, you may scallop your hat. Whereupon in the fane of St. Fiacre. Odd. It was hard by the house there, plainly on this dissolute and a buck and coal spot, Rupestric then, resurfaced, that now is, that Luttrell sold, that Luttrell bought, in the saddle of the Brennans, now Malpa's place, past, versts and versts from true civilization, not where his dreams topped their triumphal, beneath there, but where liveland yon tide mirrored with the wild, saltly with flood, that the attacker, a Crothatkin, though under medium and between colours with truly native pluck, engaged the adversary, who had more in his eye than was less to his leg, but whom, for plunder's sake, he mistook in the heavy rain to be Oglethorpe, or some other Ginkers par, apparently, to whom the hen-heelless chicken nest egg bore some Michelangelo-esque resemblance, making use of sacrilegious languages to the effect that he would challenge their hemosaurs to exterminate them, but he would canonize the B-blank-Y, B-blank-R's life out of him, and lay him out contritely, as smart as the B-blank-R had his B-blank-Y night prayers said, 3 Patrick Nosters and a couple of Henrys, tout est sacré pour un sacreur, femme ma barbe ou homme nourrice, at the same time, so as to plug well let the blobby-waved goats out of him, catching hold of an oblong bar he had, and with which he usually broke furnitures, he rose the stick at him. The border incident pre-repeated itself. The pair, whether they were Nicolae engaging wailing Tau, or Derascius trying to reconnoitre the general Bukolev, man may not say, struggled apparently for some considerable time, the cradle rocking equally to one and oppositely from the other, on its law of capture and recapture, under the all-in rules around the booksafe, fighting like Purple Pop and Tipperary Swede, sacramented service of the divine zeal, and in the course of that tussle, the toller man, who had opened his bully bowl to beg, said to the miner who was carrying the worm, a handy term for the portable distillery, which consisted of 3 vats, 2 jars, and several bottles, though we purposely say nothing of the stiff, both parties having an interest in the spirits, let me go, Pauline, I hardly knew you. Later on, after the solstitial pause for refreshment, the same man, or a different and younger him of the same ham, asked in the vermicular, with a very ugly choo-chin grin, was 6 Victorios 15 pigeon takey off you tell him his long palla by picky-pocky 10 to foul months behind the side? There was some further collider banter and severe tries to convert for the best part of an hour, and now a Warden affair in the shape of a Wedley we at once recognised our old friend Ned, of so many ill-temperate letters, fell from the intruder, who, as stuck as that cat to that mouse in that tube of that Christchurch organ, did the image of girl-clad pensive flout above them like young charm in ribbons and pigtails, whereupon became friendly, and saying not his shirt to tear to no wanted, joking and knob-carries all aside laying, it his changed companion, who stuck still to the invention of his strongbox with a tenacity corroborating their mutual territorial right, happened to have the loot's change of a 10-pound critter about him at the moment, addling that hap so he would pay him back the 6 Vicks odd, do you see, out of that, for what was taken on the manor samples last Juni or July, do you follow me, Captain? To this, the other, Billy with the bull, who had mummed and mauled after that, for he was hesitancy carried to excelsis, rather amusedly replied, "Woo, would you be grossly surprised, Hill, to learn that, as it so happens, I honestly had not such a thing as the loo, as the least chance of a tin-pan cracker anywhere about me at the present moment, but I believe I can see my way as you suggest, it being Yuletide or Judenfest, and as it's mad not sun for you when it's Hatter's hair's man for me, to advance you something like 4 7/7 between hopping and trapping, which you might just as well have, boy bashes, to buy JJ&S with." There was a minute's silence before memory's fires rekindling, and then, heart alive, which at very first wind of gay and whisk-wigs Wick's ears pricked up, the starving gunman striking pink, became strangely calm, and forthright swear by all his large porsenal that the thorn tree of Sheol might ramify off his sheerphone to the looks of Pointlex, that he would go good to him sometime, marks my word for a chip off the old flint. In the Michtian glossary which purveys a prioric roots for a posteriorius tongues, this is nat language at any sense of the world, and one might as fairly go and kiss his sprogs as fail to certify whether the war trophy eluded at some lives earlier was that something like a jug to what? A cocktail. And remarking in languid oily, seemingly much more highly pleased than tongue could tell, at this opening of a lifetime, and the foretaste of the Dunbank pearl mothers, and the boy to wash down, which he would feed to himself, in the Ruhr cow at Tark, and then into the good woman at Ring's End, and after her in at Conway's Inn at Blackrock, and first of all, cursed be all, where appetite would keenest be at funeral fair or fun fair real, Adam and Eve's in Quantity Street, by the grace of gamey Queen Torture, her will and testament. You stunning little self-downer, I'd know you anywhere, Dick Laney, let me truthfully tell you, in or out of the extinction of life and who the hell else, be your Blanche patch on the bony part. Gold ball, I struck this daylit dilate night of nights, by golly, my hat you have some bully German grits on, Donna. He spot in his house, accent, he toped the raw best, pardon, he poked his pick, a tit as a tap, and he tucked his friend's leave. And with French hen, or the portly folium of tastes and leisures, about to continue that, the queer mixture exchange, the pax and embrace, or pogue proxy, as practiced between brothers of the same breast, hallelujah, Allen and law, and having ratified before the god of the day their Torgan truce, which belittlers have schmall called the treating to cognac, turning his face menial straight in the direction of Muscas, he first got rid of a few Mitz Millers and Hurushos, and levanted off with tubular turbulence at a bull's run over the Aspach Bridge, spitting his teeth on Ruth, with a 7 and 4 in Danegeld and their humoral hurlbat or other uncertain weapon of lignum vitae, but so evermore ruminacent of the toboggan poop, picked up to keep some crow-plucking appointment with some rival Rialtos anywheres between Pea Ridge and the Little Horn, while this poor Delaney, who they left along with the Confederate fender behind, and who, albeit balls bluffed, bore up wonderfully wonder all of it, with a whole number of plum-sized contusions, plus a la Sala bruised coccyx all over him, reported the occurrence in the best way he could to the flabbergaze of the whole lab, giving the paddy banners the military salute as for his excellencies the Odaphic, in justifiable hope that, in nobile Roman review of the hugely satisfactory conclusion of their negotiation, and the juggle-monkish agrippement day in derivative, some lotion or fomentation of poppy heads would be generously exhibited to the parts at the nearest watch-house in Vicar Lane, the white ground of his face all covered with diagonally red-crossed, non-fatal mammalian blood, as proof positive of the seriousness of his character, and that he was bleeding in self-defiance, stanch it, from the nostrils, lips, pavilion, and palate, while some of his hitter's hairs had been pulled off his nut's head by Colt, though otherwise his all-round health appeared to be middling along, as it proved most fortunate, that not one of the 206 bones and 501 muscles in his torso was a whit the worse for her whacking. For who? Now then, leaving clashing ash, brawn, and muscle and brass made to Oust, and Bourne, and rock crystal to wreck isinglass, but whirling along gradually for our savings back towards Mother Waters, so many miles from Bank and Dublin Stone, Olympiading even till the 11th dynasty to reach that puddy second hamnut. And to the question of Boney's unlawfully obtaining a pierced paraflam and claptrap fireguard, there crops out the still more salient point of the politish leanings and town pursuits of our forebear, Eldon de Donnelly, may his ship stick in the bottle of the river, and all his cruisers stock locked in the burrow of the seas, who, when within the black of your toenails, sir, of being mistakenly ambushed by one of the other vedders, and as close as made no matter, ma'am, to being KO'd offhand when the Huguenot heckler with the piece of the painter wanted to hold him, was consistently practising the first of the primary and imprescriptible liberties of the Pacific subject by circulating the British boys to your belly bone and chock-a-chum chance alongst one of our unprohibited cemetery through-parts, open to buggy and bike to walk Wellington Park Road, with the curb or Quaker's quack nostrum under his oxer, and his alpen stuck in his red hand, a highly commendable exercise, or number 2 of our acta legitimata beat, on the brink, beware to walk a man at his will, of taking place upon a public seat to what, thereby butts, most easterly, but all goes west of Blackpool bridges, as a public protest and nature like vice, without intent to annoy either, being praised good, thankfully, for the wrath-bereaved ringdove and the fierce-stung boa constrictor, and all the more right jolly well pleased, which he was, at having other people's weather. But to return to the Atlantic and Phoenicia proper, as if that were not to be enough for anyone, but little headway, if any, was made in solving the was-not-to-be-crime conundrum, when a child of Mons, testy king, of a family long and honourably associated with the tar and feather industries, who gave an address in old Clomanche Mayo of the Saxons in the heart of a foul-famed Cochin district, was subsequently hailed up at the Old Bailey on the Calends of Mars, under an incompatibly framed indictment of both accounts, from each equinoxious points of view, the one fellow's fetch being the other fellow's person, that is to see flying cushiots out of his overalls, and making cresses amongst his forces on the field. Oh, yea, oh, yea. When the prisoner, points of view, the one fellow's fetch being the other fellow's person, that is to see flying cushiots out of his overalls, and making cresses amongst his horses on the field. Oh, yea, oh, yea. When the prisoner, soaked in methylated, appeared in dry dock, a patently ambrosiorialized, like Curse's corduroy caricature, wearing besides stains, rents, and patches, his white shirt, straw braces, sou'wester, and a policeman's corkscrew trousers, all out of the troop, as he had purposely torn up all his country manx bespokes in the memory time, deposing for his execution with all the floors of sparse in the Royal Irish Vocabulary, how the whole Parajack Martin, tripyesite suet, and all the sulphite of copperas had fallen off him once unaccountably, like the crystallizations of Alamon even, while he was trying for to stick fire to himself. In fact, he was dripping as he found upon stripping for a pipkin of malt as he feared the cold rain. It was attempted by the Crown, P.C. Robert, to show that King Elois Crowbar, once known as Melicky, impersonating a climbing boy, rubbed some pieces of anniluvial peatsmore over his face, flux and fusses, with a plain turf as the best means of disguising himself, and was to the middle white fair in Mudford of a tourist day, fished of peeler and pole, under the ill-assumed names of Piking Crest and Rabwork, picked by him and Anthony out of a telephone book, allegedly with a pedigree pig, unlicensed, and a hyacinth. They were on that sea by the plain of Ayr 999 years, and they never cried crack or ceased from regular paddle-wicking, till that they landed their 2 and a trifling selves, a mad camel and ass, greybeard and suckling, priest and pauper, matter matron and merry meg, into the middle of the mudstorm. The gathering convened by the Irish agricultural and preposteral organisations to help the Irish muck to look his brother Dane in the face, and attended, thanks to Larry, by large numbers of Christies and Jews totems, to spite of the deluge, was distinctly of a scattery kind, when the ballybricken he could get no good of, after cock of the walking through a few fancy-fought mains, ate some of the doorway. The pikey, later selling the gentleman ratepayer because she, France's sister that is to say, ate a whole side of his, the animal's, sty, on a struggle street, Fuista, Troya, in order to pay off his or lick 6 doubloons 15 arrears of his, the villain's, not the rumblers, rent. Remarkable evidence was given anon by an eye, ear, nose, and throat witness, whom Wesleyan chapel-goer suspected of being a plain-clothes priest, W.P., situate at Null Null Medical Square, who upon letting down his rice and pea screen cover this, and having been sullenly cautioned against yawning while being grilled, smiled. He had had a one-bumper of parting from Mrs. Mulrow in the morning, and stated to his elicitor under his Morse accents, God bless, that he slept with the bona fides, and that he would be there to remember the filth of November, hat in a ring rodeo, which with the jubilees of Juno and the dates of old anxiety was going, please the rainmaker, to descend within the ephemerides of profane history, all one with Tournay yet to slay and tomorrow, and one thing which would particularly strike a person of such sorely tried observational powers as Sam, him, and Moffat, though there's not the reason why. The striking thing about it was that he was petrified to see, hear, taste, and smell as his time of night how Hyacinth O'Donnell, B.A., described in the calendar as a mixer and word painter, with part of the Seavis Patchem, Gael Tacht for Dunfolk, on the fair green at the hour of 24 o'clock, sought, the bully Cassidy of the fried hopper, to sack, sock, stab, and slaughter single-handed another 2 of the old kings, Gush McGale and Roaring O'Crion Jr., both changelings, unlocalized, of no address and in non-communicables, between him and whom, ever since Wallops, before the Mies of Lewis, bad blood existed on the ground of the Boer's trespass on the bull, or because he first parted his polar beaver hair in 2 ways, or because they were creep fox and mousehoppers over a nitty and a novel letter, or because they could not say meese, mute, and that, mead. The litigants, he said, local kongsmen and Donalds, kings of the Arrans and the Dalkeys, kings of Mud and Tory, even the goat king of Kilorglin, were egged on by their supporters in the shape of better women with bow-strung hair of character genuine ruddiness, waving crimson petties and screaming from Izzard's tower top. There were cries from the thick sets in court and from the McDublins on the Bow and a Breen of mind the bank from Bagger Mixer, produce O'Donnell, aye, exhibit his relics, boo, use the tongue more, give lip less. But it oozed out in Dead Man's dark scenery court, through cross-examination of the case-hardened testes, that when and where that knife of knives, the three-parted ambush was laid, roughly spouting around half hours twixt dusk and dawn, by water hoses Middle European time, near Stoppenthink, High Chief Ever Byron's and only Abfowl tree in all the land, there was not as much light from the widowed moon as would dim a child's altar. The mixer, accordingly, was bluntly broached and in the best basil to boot, as to whether he was one of those lucky cocks for whom the audible, visible, nosable, edible world existed. That he was only too cognitively, cogit abundantly sure of it, because living, loving, breathing, and sleeping morpho melosopo pancreates, as he most significantly did, whenever he thought, he heard, he saw, he felt, he made a bell, clipper, 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 clipper. Whether he was practically sure, too, of his lugs and